The wanderers disguised the salt spray-kissed Mailorin's weathered face as her ship cut through the dawn-painted waves. To any observer, she appeared as nothing more than an eccentric seafarer, a woman of indeterminate age with calloused hands and sun-darkened skin, her vessel a sturdy galleon built for the endless ocean. But beneath the carefully crafted illusion lay truths that could reshape the galaxy. Her ship, the Tide Runner, bore the marks of traditional craftsmanship, hand-hewn planks, rope rigging, brass fittings green with age. Yet its timber pulsed with barely contained starlight, grown from seeds she had nursed through the void itself. The wood-remembered nebulae and solar winds, singing quiet songs of distant worlds when storms raged. For 3 centuries, Mailorin had wandered Earth's seas, visiting the scattered coastal settlements that dotted humanity's maritime frontier. She was the mysterious healer who appeared when plague struck fishing villages, the strange woman who could calm hurricane winds with whispered words in languages that predated human civilization. Children followed her through market squares, drawn by the gentle warmth that seemed to emanate from her presence. In the port town of Salt Haven, she had spent the winter mending nets and teaching young fishermen to read the deeper currents. Old Henrik, the harbour master, had pressed her for stories of distant waters, but she deflected with practiced ease. The sea holds many secrets, she would say, her eyes reflecting depths no human ocean could contain. The townspeople knew her as Captain Lyra, a wanderer with no flag or homeland. They saw her patch-wounded sailors with poultices that healed impossibly fast, heard her sing work songs in melodic tongues that made their hearts ache with inexplicable longing. Yet none suspected that their humble guest had once commanded fleets that spanned star systems, or that her gentle hands had once wielded power enough to crack moons. She carried her burden in silence, feeling the starseed stir restlessly within her chest. The last of her kind, dormant but not dead, waiting for the moment when her careful control would slip. Each day brought new whispers in her mind, memories of conquest and glory, of the empire she had built and watched burn. The seed fed on. Her guilt, growing stronger with each passing year. As the Tide Runner sailed toward the horizon, Mailorin pressed a palm to her heart, feeling the alien warmth beneath her ribs. The storms ahead would test more than her seamanship. Something was changing in the cosmic winds, and her long exile might soon come to an end. The disguise that had protected her for centuries was beginning to crack, and with it, the carefully maintained balance between her past and humanity's future. Tom's revelation: the hurricane struck without warning, a wall of black water and screaming wind that dwarfed anything in Mailorin's 3 centuries on Earth's oceans. The Tide Runner pitched violently as waves the size of buildings crashed over her bow, but the cosmic hardened timber held fast, glowing faintly with each impact. Through the chaos, Mailorin spotted the human naval vessel, a sleek destroyer caught broadside by the storm's fury. The ship's hull groaned as it listed dangerously, emergency flares painting the rain-lashed darkness in desperate reds and oranges. She counted at least 50 souls aboard, their terror reaching her even across the howling wind. Without hesitation, she altered course toward the stricken vessel. The starseed within her chest pulsed harder, responding to her emotional distress. Ancient reflexes stirred, the same instincts that had once made her an empress among the stars. But this time, they urged protection rather than conquest. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Holloway clung to the destroyer's bridge, watching his instruments fail one by one. The storm had come from nowhere, defying every weather prediction. His crew, good people with families waiting at home, deserved better than dying in this supernatural tempest. "Sir!" Ensign David Park shouted over the wind. "Unknown vessel approaching off the starboard bow." Through the rain, Holloway glimpsed the impossible sight of a wooden sailing ship riding the massive swells as if they were gentle rollers. The vessel's captain stood at the wheel, her long coat whipping in the wind, seemingly unbothered by the chaos around her. Mailorin raised her hands, and the starseed's power flowed through her like molten silver. The symbols beneath her skin began to glow, ancient virulent script that traced her arms and collarbone, telling the story of dead worlds and fallen kingdoms. She spoke words that predated human language, commanding the storm with authority. And across millennia, the hurricane paused, its eye widening as if in recognition. Waves flattened into rolling swells, and the shrieking wind dropped to a whisper. In the sudden calm, Mailorin's ship glided alongside the destroyer with impossible grace. "Prepare to receive survivors," she called out, her voice carrying clearly. Across the water, what followed was a display that would haunt the naval crew's dreams. Mailorin moved between the ships like she was walking on solid ground, her feet finding purchase on the wind itself. One by one, she gathered the injured, men with broken bones and internal bleeding that should have been fatal. Her touch left them whole, the glowing symbols on her skin pulsing brighter with each healing. Young Ensign Park, barely 18 and fighting shock, was the last to be transferred. As Mailorin lifted him from the wreckage, their eyes met, and he saw past her human disguise. The woman's pupils held the depth of space itself, swelling with colors that had no names. And there, just beneath her collar, alien script flared like captured starlight. "What are you?" he whispered. Mailorin's expression softened with ancient sadness. "Someone who has forgotten how to be what she was," she replied, setting him gently aboard her ship. The storm resumed its fury as suddenly as it had stopped, but the Tide Runner sailed through it untouched, carrying 53 souls to safety, and one witness to secrets that would soon reshape everything. The investigation. 3 days after the rescue, the wreckage of the mysterious sailing vessel washed ashore near Naval Research Station Echo 7. Dr. Amelia Frost, the station's chief xenogeologist, had seen her share of unusual materials, but nothing had prepared her for what lay scattered across the rocky beach. The ship's timbers gleamed with an inner light that defied explanation. When her team attempted to cut samples, the saws sparked against wood harder than steel. Electromagnetic readings fluctuated wildly around the debris, and Geiger counters clicked with patterns that seemed almost musical. "This isn't from Earth," Dr. Frost muttered, running her scanner over a piece of the ship's hull. The device registered cellular structures that matched no known tree species, mixed with trace elements that existed nowhere in the periodic table. Her research partner, Dr. James Nakamura, had been analyzing the carvings found throughout the wreckage. The symbols were etched deep into the alien wood, their grooves filled with what appeared to be crystallized light. "These aren't decorative markings," he announced, projecting his findings onto the lab's main screen. "They are some kind of writing system, but the linguistic structure is completely alien. The grammar suggests a civilization with a fundamentally different understanding of time and causality." Meanwhile, Ensign Park sat in the station's debriefing room, facing questions from intelligence officers who clearly didn't believe his account. Captain Victoria Reed, a stern woman with 20 years of naval experience, reviewed his statement with barely concealed skepticism. "You're telling us that a woman in a wooden ship calmed a Category 5 hurricane by talking to it?" Captain Reed's tone suggested she thought Park needed psychological evaluation. "I know how it sounds," Park insisted, his hands trembling as he reached for his water glass. "But I saw the symbols under her skin, Captain. They were glowing like stars. And her eyes, they weren't human." Lieutenant Commander Holloway entered the room, his own report clutched in his weathered hands. "With respect, Captain, I can confirm the impossible nature of our rescue. That storm should have killed us all. Instead, it simply stopped." As if it was listening to her. Dr. Frost's voice crackled through the intercom system. "Captain Reed, you need to see this immediately. We've found something in the ship's debris. That changes everything." The group rushed to the laboratory, where Dr. Frost stood before a piece of the ship's keel. The wood had been sectioned to reveal its internal structure, and what they saw defied all logic. Instead of growth rings, the timber contained layers of compressed stardust, held together by organic matrices that shouldn't exist. "This wood was grown in space," Dr. Nakamura said quietly. "The isotope ratios match interstellar medium samples from deep space probes. Whoever built this ship had access to materials and technology centuries ahead of our own." Captain Reed stared at the evidence, her worldview cracking like glass. "Find her," she ordered. "Find this Captain Lyra, or whatever her real name is. If she's some kind of alien refugee, we need to know her intentions." But Mailorin was already gone, having slipped away from the rescue ship during the night. She walked now through the coastal town of Millfield, her alien vessel lost but her secret partially exposed. The starseed within her chest had grown restless, feeding on the energy she'd expended during the storm. Time was running out. The careful balance she'd maintained for centuries was crumbling, and soon she would have to face the choice she'd been avoiding: let the starseed die with her, or risk awakening the power that had once conquered worlds. Behind her, human ships spread across the ocean, searching for answers to questions they barely knew how to ask. The gentle confrontation. Mailorin found refuge in the small fishing village of Driftwood Bay, where she helped mend nets and heal the minor ailments that plagued the local fishermen. But she could feel the human surge closing in around her, their ships patrolling the coastline with increasing frequency. The starseed pulsed against her ribs like a second heart, growing stronger with each passing day. Captain Reed arrived aboard the research vessel Pioneer, accompanied by Dr. Frost and a small team of specialists. They had tracked Mailorin through a combination of witness reports and energy signatures that their instruments barely understood. The woman they sought had been helping a local family whose daughter suffered from a rare blood disorder. Help that left the child completely cured and their medical scanners reading impossible cellular regeneration rates. "We are not here to harm you," Captain Reed called out as their landing craft approached the village dock. "We just want to understand." Mailorin stood at the end of the pier, her simple clothes and weathered hands making her appear like any other coastal dweller. But the alien script beneath her skin flickered faintly, responding to her emotional state. The local villagers gathered behind her, men and women whose lives she had touched, whose children she had saved from sickness and injury. Old Thomas Brennan, the village's unofficial leader, stepped forward protectively. "Captain Lyra's done nothing but good here. Whatever you want with her, you'll have to go through us first." Dr. Frost raised her hands peacefully, her scanner detecting energy readings that made her instruments sing with harmonics. "We don't want to take her anywhere against her will. But the debris from her ship, the materials are beyond anything we understand. If she's willing to share knowledge that could help humanity, help." Mailorin's voice carried across the water, tinged with centuries of pain. "I have spent 300 years helping. Healing your sick, calming your storms, teaching your children to see wonder in the world. What more would you ask of me?" She walked slowly toward the landing party, and with each step, the glow beneath her skin intensified. The symbols traced patterns of ancient conquest and bitter exile, telling stories in a language older than human civilization. "I know what you found," she continued, her eyes meeting Captain Reed's with steady resolve. "Would that remember starlight? Writing that speaks of worlds beyond your current reach. You wonder what I am, what I want, whether I pose a threat to your species." Dr. Nakamura, who had remained silent during the exchange, suddenly gasped as his linguistic analysis program finally cracked a portion of the alien script. "The symbols, they are not just writing. They are a historical record. This woman, she's documenting the fall of an empire." Mailorin smiled sadly, and for a moment, her human disguise flickered. The assembled humans glimpsed something magnificent and terrible, a being whose true form blazed with the light of collapsed stars, whose presence spoke of dominion over cosmic forces. "I am Mailorin of the Varellan," she said simply. "Once, I ruled 1,000 worlds. My fleets darkened the space between galaxies. I commanded power that could reshape reality itself." The disguise reasserted itself, leaving her appearing human once more. "That empire fell because of what I carry inside me." She pressed a hand to her chest, where the starseed pulsed with increasing urgency. "The last of my people lies dormant within my heart. It dreams of glory and conquest, whispers of rebuilding what was lost. For centuries, I have denied it, choosing instead to live simply among you." Captain Reed found her voice. "Why? Why give up such power?" "Because I learned something during the war that destroyed my empire," Mailorin replied. "True strength lies not in commanding others, but in protecting them. Your species shows promise. You reach for the stars not to conquer, but to explore. You heal rather than destroy. I wish to preserve that innocence." The starseed flared brighter, and Mailorin staggered slightly. The long years of suppression were taking their toll, and the entity within her grew impatient. "But it seems my time of hiding is ending," she whispered. "The choice I've avoided for 3 centuries can no longer be delayed." The awakening choice. The starseed's awakening began at dawn, sending shockwaves through the dimensional fabric that human instruments could barely detect. Mailorin collapsed on the village pier, her body racked with energies that threatened to tear her apart. The alien script beneath her skin blazed like circuit patterns, and her carefully maintained human form began to dissolve. Dr. Frost watched in awe as readings spiked beyond her equipment's capacity to measure. "The energy output is incredible. She's generating more power than a nuclear reactor, but it's completely controlled." Around them, the very air began to shimmer with possibility. The starseed, sensing its host's weakening control, poured memories into Mailorin's consciousness, visions of the Varellan Empire at its height, fleets of living ships that grew from cosmic seeds, worlds reshaped by pure will and ancient wisdom. I can rebuild it all, the starseed whispered through her lips, its voice harmonizing with her own. The glory, the power, the empire that spanned galaxies. These humans could serve us well, they have potential, if properly guided. But Mailorin fought against the vision, clinging to 3 centuries of human kindness. She remembered Thomas Brennan sharing his dinner with a stranger, young Mary Chen's laughter when her fever finally broke, the fisherman who had welcomed her into their community without question. Captain Reed knelt beside her, medical scanners showing impossible physiological changes. What can we do to help? Nothing, Mailorin gasped, her form flickering between human and something far more magnificent. This choice was always mine to make. The starseed offers me everything I once had, power to reshape worlds, fleets to explore the galaxy, the chance to guide humanity to heights you cannot imagine. The starseed's influence grew stronger, and for a moment, they all glimpsed what Earth could become under Varellan guidance. Cities of living crystal reaching toward the stars, humanity elevated beyond their current limitations, a new golden age of exploration and discovery. It was a beautiful vision, seductive in its promise. But at what cost? Mailorin continued, wrestling with the entity within her. Would humanity still be human if I remade you in my image? Would your kindness survive if I elevated you through conquest? Dr. Nakamura, still analyzing the linguistic patterns flowing from her skin, made a startling discovery. The script, it's changing. The historical record is updating in real time. She's not just carrying her people's past, she's writing their future. Mailorin understood. The starseed wasn't just the last of her species, it was their next evolutionary step, waiting for the right moment to emerge. But evolution demanded choice, not imposition. With tremendous effort, she reached out to young Ensign Park, who had been watching in fascinated terror. When I healed you in the storm, she whispered. Did you feel different? Changed? Park nodded slowly, then gasped as he noticed a faint glow beneath his own skin, not alien script, but something uniquely human, yet touched by starlight. The starseed has been preparing, Mailorin realized with wonder. Not to dominate or replace, but to merge. To create something new, neither fully human nor Varellan, but a bridge between worlds. She made her choice then, not fighting the starseed's awakening but guiding it. Instead of recreating her lost empire, she offered it something better, partnership with a species that chose exploration over conquest, healing over dominance. The transformation that followed was gentle, spreading through the assembled humans. Not as infection but as invitation. Those who accepted found themselves changed, capable of hearing the songs of distant stars, of understanding the harmony that connected all living things across the galaxy. Mailorin's physical form finally stabilized, appearing human but touched with starlight. Around her, the first human Varellan hybrids began to understand their new nature, beings capable of bridging the gap between Earth and the wider universe. My empire fell because I tried to rule from above, she said, her voice carrying harmonics of cosmic wind. Perhaps it's time to try building something together, not as empress and subjects, but as equals reaching for the same stars. And in the small fishing village of Driftwood Bay, a new chapter of galactic history began to unfold.